As you might have guessed, I am completely done with RWBY as a show. I feel no desire to come back to it after the Volume 6 finale because it was just that bad. I think it's probably one of the worst finales of the entire show so far. And, well, I heard about this manga. It was a RWBY Shonen Jump manga. It's by Bunta. I didn't know this existed until EruptionFang posted a video about it. So I was curious about it because he did say that it was better than the show itself, despite only having a couple chapters out. So today I'm going to be reviewing it and see if there is still hope for RWBY as a franchise.
The manga basically begins same as it does in the show, with Roman. Oh my, he's adorable. Anyways, Roman tries to rob the store, and then RWBY jumps in, who's nearby. So she fights the goons for a little bit, and then Roman escapes on an airship. Actually, Glinda steps in, just like in the show. The difference here is that Cinder does not make an appearance. She was on the airship that Roman was escaping on in the show, but we don't even see her in a single frame. So already a significant change was made. Another change comes with RWBY and Yang being on the airship on their way to Beacon. Yang is now happy that her sister stopped Roman Torchwick. Roman is given much more of a reputation, saying that, oh, he's the most dangerous guy in Vale. So that puts more weight on what RWBY has done because she's given him a run for his money. In the show, Yang appears pleased with her sister, but there's never a direct reason given. And then when Glenda's hologram comes on, then it switches to the interrogation scene with Glenda and Ozpin. I really like this entire exchange between Glenda, RWBY, and later Ozpin because it gives something that RWBY has sorely lacked in the entirety of its lifespan: world building. It's no secret at this point that RWBY is pretty crappy at world building. After all, if you have to upload videos explaining how certain things work and what your world actually is, then maybe they did a bad job at it. Anyways, Roman is given further characterization of being the most dangerous dude in Vale. Glinda has been largely unable to prevent his crimes, so that robbery there wasn't just like something random that happened. But when Ozpin steps in, he asks her, why do you want to go to Beacon? Why does RWBY want to attend this school? So then she gives possibly the best change in the entire show as her answer. So she talks like you would to an actual professor. Very mature, she's sitting up straight and stuff, so she's trying to be as mature as she possibly can. So she's like, okay, Beacon is one of the only 4 Huntsman academies, and it's very prestigious. You know, Beacon alumni are practically famous and awesome, and she says like, oh yeah, you two are basically celebrities. She also brings up her parents, and I think this is a very good change because if your 2 parents like went to this school, then you actually feel more obligated to go there as well. I know that because my parents also attended the same college, so I can kind of relate to that a little bit. And another major change is that there is not a single mention of Silver Eyes. There's no mention of Crow either. So I am intrigued, actually, because I'm wondering how Bunta is going to deviate from the source material. There's actually some changes and stuff, so it's not like beat for beat what the show did prior. And you can see this in the next couple of scenes. So RWBY, like in the show, falls onto Weiss's luggage, and then Weiss ends up, berating RWBY too. There's another great change where Weiss actually insults RWBY to the point where RWBY insults her back, and she's like, oh, you can't make it as a huntress because you've got like this prissy haircut, you've got a bad attitude. And we get this, I think, wonderfully composed still of Weiss where she dares RWBY to say it again. The show never does this. So it shows her resolve to go to this prestigious academy. She's not here for giggles. She's here because she wants to be a huntress, even if she has a bad attitude about her. You know, Blake jumps in, so it kind of goes the exact same way. She leaves, and then RWBY collapses on the ground. John comes in and helps RWBY up, and for the most part, Team Juniper's stories remain exactly the same up until that point where Chapter 4 leaves off. Honestly, they are indeed side characters, and not much time needs to be focused on them. One thing I thought really hindered Volume 1 was the focus on basically 8 main characters instead of just 4.
Another good change I thought was when Weiss came across RWBY. They lock eyes for a moment, but then Weiss goes away. She comes across John and then leaves him and gets ambushed by an Ursa. In the show, Weiss goes back to RWBY, and it's kind of treated as a comedic moment. And then RWBY gets so overexcited she abandons Weiss, which kind of makes her look bad. But here it makes sense why she's alone. And RWBY actually jumps in to save her. Because even though she doesn't like Weiss, she still sees the need to help others. And she's not just going to sit by while Weiss gets attacked. I like that. You know, RWBY is actually the main character of her story now.
And she gives one of those main character speeches once the Deathstalker and later the Nevermore show up. She's like, okay, guys, we can't just leave this thing to grow bigger and stronger for someone else to find and possibly get seriously hurt from. So she rallies her team and then Juniper together to take on the Grimm. And this is a great moment. This is really good. You know, she's affecting things around her. So she's not just some side character. She actually plays an active role in the story, which I think is very good. RWBY in the show honestly just felt like a side character in a story, even though the show is literally named after her and her team. Now for the other part, the thumbnail. It's good to see you again. I don't mean that about the action, as the action in this manga is pretty basic, but you know, you can't animate a fight if it's in pictures. But you know what? If the characters are more interesting, then, and given more of a reputation, that's a trade-off I'm willing to make. But the one thing I think that this manga does that sets it apart from all the rest of the anthologies and soon-to-be comics that are being released is this. The characters feel like themselves again. And I don't just mean like pre-Volume 3 before all the bad stuff happened. I mean it more like the characters feel like how I feel like they were originally supposed to be. Let me explain. RWBY as a show has a wide host of music. But the difference from most shows is that their songs are usually told from the perspective of one or more characters. RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang each got their own songs that played during their trailers. I don't know how you did it, Buntakimi, but honestly, RWBY feels like the uncertain girl who was singing in Red Like Roses. Weiss felt like the girl who was singing in Mirror Mirror a little bit, instead of just being a bitch. Blake, while I cannot say for certain if she will be the person who is singing in From Shadows, Yang feels like that over-the-top, extroverted mom figure that I felt was singing in her song, Gold. Honestly, I don't know how Buntakimi did it to make me feel like this.
I did. That's why the thumbnail is the way it is. Because I feel like I'm seeing the characters as they originally were meant to be. So with that, I conclude this video. If, like me, you've lost faith in RWBY as a show and its characters and its lore, everything about it, then I encourage all of you to check this manga out. It's actually available for free, Shonen Dump. Don't even need to sign up or anything. Except for if you want to read chapter 4.